Okay, last one, probably. I really hope I don't run out of film. I'm really sorry these are really long, and I wasn't intending them to be like 10 minutes each, but they're ending up to be really long, so I'm hoping you guys have a lot of like time on your hands and you can just sit here and watch my really dorky videos. So, William, since I just told you guys a little like brief crash course in part of where Cynthia was growing up, I'll explain a little bit more about William. Unlike Cynthia, his parents were rich. Like, he grew up in the central part of the capital, grew up total, like, capital citizen sort of thing going on. So it's even more amazing that his thought process was a lot different than the people around him. He was a lot like Cynthia in the fact that he felt that he did not really belong anywhere, and, he just thought about things. Which you'd think is a no-brainer, but honestly, not as many people think about things as, like, you would assume. I think even in our society, and especially in the capital. So he was even more misunderstood probably, but he was a lot more popular. Like, I mean, people didn't not like him. He was just smart, but people still liked him. Like, he's a likable person, but he still never really felt like he had someone who truly, like, understood him. Like, I mean, he had a lot of, like, friends, sort of, but they were just sort of friends with him because he was kind of cool and kind of handsome. So, okay, let's start with his parents. They both really, really loved him, but they really, really pushed him because I'm thinking I still haven't. Again, I really need to develop their parents more, like William's especially, and I'm thinking maybe. Because his dad is very rich, like he's very high up in society, so I was thinking maybe he'd be an assistant game maker and be sort of encouraging William to travel that same path, because William at heart is a little tiny bit of a pacifist. Like, I mean, he grows up in the capital and he views the games as sort of a necessary evil because he can't really like question it, because he ends up working very close, you know, alongside President Snow, so he can't really say, hey, this is a really bad idea. But he sort of, you know, he questions morality a lot, just like Cynthia does, and so he views things a little differently, and so his childhood is basically a lot of his parents pushing him to do things, like just pushing and pushing and pushing because he needs to be another sort of like prominent citizen in society. So they're having him in all sorts of lessons, you know, just think of very capital things. You know, they're teaching him proper etiquette, just very formal stuff. He has to like wear nice clothes all the time, and he's taking ballroom dancing lessons, which he's awful at, which is sort of cute. And he's taking lessons in like 5 different instruments, and he takes a real liking to piano. Like, he's sort of a virtuoso on it, and I'm very nostalgic about that because there's some scenes with him and Cynthia in my brain at the piano, and he sort of ends up trying to teach her. But I'm going to go into that later because I could just go off about that forever and ever and ever and ever. So he's a musician, but he's sort of awful at some of the stuff his parents make him do. But, you know, I mean, he's just lived this very like stuffy, regimented life, which he doesn't like take for granted though, because his parents do care about him a lot. They just push him to death. And but alongside that pushing was also an academic sort of pushing, and so he worked very hard in his studies also. And he's the right-brained one, Cynthia's the left-brained one, and he always had this love for like words, and like his father had this huge library in their house. They had a big house, and it's this huge library of just books from the Dark Days, which is sort of amazing because I'm picturing a lot of books were destroyed after the Dark Days since you don't really like hear about them. And just like history books, like William is just obsessed with history because that was sort of a love instilled by his father, and he's not just the history of like because I'm picturing the history of Panem being sort of like just propaganda more than anything. Like, I picture them just brainwashing their citizens, and like the history is like, okay, so the districts rebelled and then we punished them and now we live as a happy society. But no, like legitimate history from like before the Dark Days. And he considers it the Dark Days before the Dark Days, like when there were still like countries and like, he knows about all that, which is really interesting because not a lot of people study that or know about that. At least that's what I assume. And anyway, he's very into history. Where am I going with this? He goes, he spends his whole life in like really good education. He's very like well read, you know, but he's still not like, he's not like snooty about it. It's just where his life has taken him, like, which is sort of surprising because you'd think he'd be very like proud of that, but he's just not. It's just where his parents sort of like pushed him to go, and so he went there. And the one thing that was a little bit different is, so anyway, now we're in college. I'm jumping forward, and he's 2 years older than Cynthia when they meet. She's studying medicine. I'm not sure what class they meet in. I haven't decided that yet. But after, like, as soon as he graduates, President Snow offers, because he's like a very prominent student and he works a lot in like political sort of stuff, and he's offered a job, you know, under President Snow, and that's his diplomatic advisor. So basically, like, I figured that they had never had this position before, but his job is sort of to be this sort of handle the what is it called, the chemistry, in the districts. Is it the, I don't know what I'm trying to say. He's sort of like, he goes around and he sort of tries to like speak to people, like, and the thing about him is, I mean, I'm sure the districts don't give a crap because they're a little bit mad that they're being oppressed, but he genuinely does sort of like care, and he doesn't want to make things like worse. He's not just trying to like, you know, make things better for the president so the districts don't rebel. He just, you know, he wants to like genuinely talk to people, because he several times has tried to propose to President Snow, this is later on, you know, to at least allow more like supplies for the districts, like, you know, better, you know, feed the districts more. And he's not opposed to the Hunger Games because it's, even if he is opposed, he would not have said anything, because it's just how their society runs. It's one of those massive things. It's like, how do you change that? You know, there are things that I'm opposed to, but it's like, they're big and it's just integrated into society, so it's not like he could have really done anything about it. But he was saying, you know, if we cut back a little bit, you know, in the capital, the districts might be a little bit happier because they'd have, you know, a better lifestyle. But President Snow wasn't really like listening to him on that. But I mean, if he had, you know, maybe there wouldn't have been that desire to rebel in the first place, because the districts would be treated better. And so he's a bit of a visionary, I think, because he wanted that sort of equality there, just more than anything because, you know, the I'm not sure what word I'm trying to find, but the mentality in the districts was very like, they felt oppressed. And he studies history, and he knows that when, you know, when someone feels oppressed, there is that desire to rise up. So he's very wise, I think. He didn't even like know how, you know, what a revolutionary viewpoint that was. He was just trying to like, you know, communicate this to him, that, you know, the citizens were not happy with how their country was being run. So anyway, that was off on a tangent completely. I don't even know if I'm supposed to tell you guys that, but he's a diplomatic advisor for a while, so he's just a little diplomat and goes around to the districts, and yeah.